I'm Kassidy.
And I'm Kennedy.
And this is Threads of Wellth. Well, I'm excited because you interviewed me last time and now I get the chance to ask you questions and let the audience hear your heart and who you are, not only for your heart behind this podcast, why you wanted to start it, but also just who you are and what you're passionate about. So, let's, so why don't we just start off by, can you just tell us, like, first of all, who you are, maybe some interesting facts about you?
Yeah, so I think that today I will answer that question a little bit differently than I have in the past, just because this year I became a mom. I'm a new mom. Our daughter is 9 months old. Her name's Noah. And
She's the cutest thing ever.
Yeah, I'm biased, but she's pretty dang cute. She's got some big old cheeks. And so I would say now at the core, I'm a mom, a very proud mom at that. Mm-hmm. I also own a Pilates studio, a reformer Pilates studio in the town that we live, which has been a really fun and exciting and sometimes overwhelming adventure. But it's funny because I think that's what I spend my days doing day in and day out now, running my Pilates studio and being a mom and a wife and friend, sister, all of the things. But it wasn't until really the last year that both of those things started. So obviously we had my daughter in February and I opened the Reformer Pilates studio last October. So life has changed a lot in the last year, but all for the better.
Yeah, you've had like a lot of changes in the last year, and I'm sure you can just tell a year ago, 2 years ago, just how much you've grown in that amount of time. So
absolutely
aren't small changes either.
No, lots of big changes and all at the same time.
Yeah. So what's something that like you think that people usually get wrong about you, that people assume about you that is wrong?
Yeah, I would say a couple things. The first being, I think people assume that I'm an extrovert, and at my core, I'm not. At my core, I'm an introvert, and I obviously love people and I love having a community around me, but at my core, I'm very introverted. I kind of ties into the next thing people get wrong about me is that I don't enjoy public speaking for that reason. I'm not an extrovert. My ideal Friday night is sitting at home with my family, which is kind of funny because my husband's ideal Friday night is the opposite. We talked about on your episode that you both are the same Enneagram number. Mm-hmm. He definitely recharges by being with other people and always having something to do. And that's just not me. I don't get me wrong. I love to do that. I love to spend time with friends, but at my core, I am an extreme introvert, I would say. I have extroverted qualities, which, may have just been from life experiences and stuff like that. But I think that's something that most people get wrong about me.
Yeah, and I think that something that shift my perspective on like an introvert versus an extrovert is I always just thought like introverts don't like people, don't like to leave their house, and extroverts do like people. I think that's not true. I think someone said an introvert like gets their energy from being by themselves.
Yeah.
Extroverts get their energy, like they get recharged by being around other people, which I think was a really good way to put it, because it doesn't mean that, introverts don't like to do things. It's just with people, it's just that when they are low energy, they get that from being by themselves.
I think it comes into play when you think about being in a group of people. I would say that extroverts maybe have a tendency to tell stories and to, talk to everybody at one time. And so like kind of it sounds not right to say the center of attention. That's not what I'm trying to say, but more just like involved in the group setting. Mm-hmm. As to me, as an introvert, I am more comfortable one-on-one, like meaning not necessarily meaningful, because extroverts obviously love that too, but more one-on-one deeper than small talk conversations. If that makes sense.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's very true. That's the way I put it.
Yeah.
Well, since we're talking about personalities, we talked about Enneagrams on that last episode. And so why don't you tell us, you're a 2.
I'm a 2, which is a helper.
Yeah. So why don't you explain what that is and like what that means, what like how you show that in your life?
Yeah. So I think the helper really is how it sounds. I love to help people. I love to serve people. I think that's where I'm most comfortable in my role. So in all of the jobs or careers that I've had, I thrive when I'm kind of a behind the scenes role and not necessarily at the forefront. I would say I also have a really hard time saying no to people and to things. So, and I think that actually ties into why people assume I'm an extrovert, because I don't like to let people down. And toxic trait, I always think everybody's mad at me. And so, toxic trait. And so I think that, like my healthy Enneagram 2 qualities are like that I love to serve people. I would say that I take care of people well, which unhealthy trait sometimes relates to me not necessarily taking care of myself the way I should. But yeah, I love to help people. I love to do everything I can to fix situations, to make people happy. And I saw, that little, the Little Miss, like, I don't even know how to describe that, but it's like Little Miss Happy or Little Miss, the Enneagram 2s is Little Miss Can't Say No. And I think that perfectly describes me. It. Yeah. I think that perfectly describes me.
I think there's positives and negatives to every personality type, but I think that there's a lot of positives with that. Like, although you probably get drained from being that way sometimes, like you do it does really show just you trying to help people and uplift them and really giving yourself for other people.
Yeah.
So you read this for me, so I have to do it for you too. But there's like a little graph that it's what the day looks like for Enneagram 2. So the first part starts with starting the day with a thankful heart. That's a little part of it. Then the next part is wondering if someone is mad at them, which is a pretty big portion of it.
That's how I spend most of my day.
And then the biggest portion in the middle is assessing everyone's needs and feelings. And then the next little portion is doing something to make someone's day. And then the last is remembering the times they should have said no.
Yeah.
So do you feel like that's pretty accurate?
I think that's 100% spot on, because yes, I can't say I have a really hard time saying no to things, but it's also true that hindsight's obviously 2020, but I look back and I'm like, wow, I was really stressed out, or I really didn't need to put that on myself or my family or whatever that might be. And so one of my biggest goals in life is to figure out how to say no when it comes to, there's a lot of positive and power in saying yes to things. And so I don't want that to be like misconstrued, because I do believe in saying yes and stepping outside your comfort zone and all of those things. But when it affects, you personally and your stress levels, and then my family, my husband, my daughter, all of those things, then there's a lot of power in saying no to. And so, anyway, I feel like I think that's pretty spot on.
Do you find yourself getting drained a lot because of that? Like, because of that, like you just feel like you're drained at the end of the day?
Oh yeah, for sure. I think there's, and I think a lot of that draining is not necessarily because I have so much to do. Well, it could be, that could be a factor, but also because I think I put a lot of pressure on myself to exceed, or to, do amazing at everything, excel at everything I do. And so, I think that can be draining.
Yeah. Well, even if you feel like that, you don't always portray that, which is speaks to who you are. But what helps you, like at the end of the day, or even at the beginning of the day, like what helps you stay centered or calm during those moments when life's chaotic or you're feeling drained?
Yeah, I think you talked about it in your interview as well, but I, start my mornings with being in the Word, whether that's devotionals or prayer, or I have a little journal that gives me prompts. Like it asks me the verse of the day and my reflection or my thoughts on that. And then it has a section where it says like, what are you grateful for? And I think, which is funny that says that for that Enneagram thing, because that honestly helps my day start out on the right note. Is just get rid of yesterday's chaos, get rid of like all the chaos in my own mind, and just really focus on what I'm grateful for. And I think that is extremely important. And I notice the days that I skip or that I, don't have time or something like that. When it comes to the end of the day, I would say I'm also pretty similar to what you said, as far as just taking time, whether it's Tanner and I watching a show, or whether it's just, I do like to read. I haven't read in a long time, mainly because when I read, I fall asleep. And so then I like have to read the same chapter section over and over and over and over again. And so we usually just like watch a show, but really just being home, being quiet, does a lot of good for my soul.
Yeah. I love that. So kind of shifting to like why we started this podcast, what was your heart behind it? What made you want to not only start this podcast, but like what made you be interested in this like health and wellness space to begin with?
Yeah.
Did it start a long time ago and you've grown it, or was it like just you had a discovery one day?
Yeah, so I have always, like you, and I feel like a lot of our answers might be a little bit similar because we grew up in the same home and we're sisters, and we have a lot of similarities. But I always liked being physically active. We played all the sports in high school, played sports in college. But I never really thought about wellness being more than being physically fit. I remember in high school, like I would play a basketball game, and then if it was a doubleheader and we would watch the boys play, I would go to the concession stand and get a Mountain Dew. Like that's not exactly the epitome of wellness. I think it was when I broke my back in high school that I really started to see the need, not necessarily that it immediately woke me up to long-term health and wellness, but I think that was kind of the pivotal moment in my life where that shift started to happen. When I was a sophomore in high school, I broke my back in a basketball game, was going up for a last second shot and had my legs taken out from under me and landed wrong. And it didn't start as like a complete break, but it started as a fracture. And so I was in and out of a back brace for 6 months. I tried to come back and play sports, and just nothing was ever really working. I had a lot of herniated and bulging disc issues and all the things you could really think of when it comes to hurting back. And then 2 years after the initial injury, I had surgery. And that was the summer before my senior year of high school. And sports was my life, I would say, at that point. Like, I loved basketball, and my number one priority was to be able to play college basketball. And after I had surgery, I had to miss my senior year of volleyball season. I came back for basketball season, which was hard, but it felt okay. And so I decided to try to play college basketball. I knew it wasn't going to be the same, but I decided to try. And I had a lot of issues when I went to college and played, a lot of nerve issues. I'd wake up in the middle of the night with my legs numb. I'd be running ladders and my legs would go numb. I would have a lot of pain, and spending a lot of time in the training room before and after practice, just trying to make it so that I could play. And I was in and out of doctor's offices. And I think it was one doctor in Sioux Falls told me, do you want to walk when you're 30? Do you want to walk when you're 40 years old? Do you want to play with your kids, or do you want to play basketball? And it wasn't that extreme at that point. However, he was trying to make me understand that because of everything that was going on, risking a greater injury, pushing myself was probably not the best option long term. So I think it was then where I realized I am not invincible, and there's a lot of life to live outside of college, outside of sports, outside of all the things. I wanted to get married, I wanted to have a family, I wanted to do all these things. And so I think that's when my shift started to happen. And then when a couple of years later, I graduated from college, moved to Nashville, Tennessee to get my master's in business administration. And I think it was when I was there that I started to realize the importance of wellness beyond the physical. I moved there in the middle of the pandemic, and I didn't know anybody, and it wasn't really easy for me to get to know anybody because everybody was behind masks, and I was extremely lonely. I was sad. I didn't really have a lot to look forward to. And so I think that's when I started to prioritize doing things for myself that make me feel whole. And I think that's also where I discovered Reformer Pilates. And so I think all of those little pieces kind of formed together to create this passion in me to not just dive into wellness for my family, but also to use it to serve the people around me as well.
Yeah, that's amazing. Like, so what would you say is like your favorite? Because I feel like there's many different aspects to like wellness. Yeah. Term used broadly. Like, what's your favorite part of that? Like under that umbrella?
That's a great question. I would say first and foremost, I'm a little biased because I own a Reformer Pilates studio, but the physical wellness and the things that we do to take care of our bodies is at the top of that list. I would say probably not at the top of that list because I like spiritual wellness is most important to me, my faith first and foremost. But because my everyday life is living and breathing my Pilates studio and watching transformations of people that have come in thinking that they have never been able to do a plank before. They couldn't do a crunch. They couldn't do a push-up. And just over time being consistent with it, watching them regain that confidence has been super amazing for me. And it's brought a lot of joy to me. I would say also that we have talked a little bit about wellness without pressure. And I think that wellness is kind of a buzzword in the sense where people hear wellness and they think of the trendy things, which is kind of funny that that's coming from me because I would say Reformer Pilates is a very trendy thing right now. But it goes beyond that. It's not just that. There's little tiny things that you can do in your everyday life to eliminate harmful toxins or just to eat whole foods. You know, don't go to the pantry and grab a bag of potato chips. Don't DoorDash Culver's. However, I mean, even though I love Culver's, but you know what I mean? Like there's just little things in your life that you can do to kind of feel more whole and well in general. And so I think outside of the individual things in wellness, I think my favorite thing about it is that you can start wherever you're at. And there's not a certain threshold that you have to reach in order to qualify for being healthy or well. You really just start where you're at, do what you can, and there's always room for growth wherever you're at.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that we haven't really talked about so far on like what's I think a cool thing about us doing this podcast together is that we're both passionate about health and wellness, but we both kind of have different stories of how we got into it. Yours being more like the physical, you broke your back, you experienced that, and mine being more of my kid having gut issues and trying to heal him. And so I would say that we both have like different number one passions, I feel like, when it comes to wellness. Not like we both are equally, I mean, you're still passionate about the food. I'm still passionate about, I love to work out. I don't know what I'd do in the morning if I didn't, but I think you have that unique perspective on the physical side of it, of like, it's important to be moving your body and to see people like their confidence grow when they hit milestones like you talked about. So I think that's a unique perspective that we can bring to the podcast too, of like just each having different number one passions and bring them together.
I think it was also not until recently that I started to feel that way too about the physical wellness, because you are your number one critic. Like, you were extremely harsh on yourself. And so I think it wasn't until I started to see transformations in other people's lives on a day-to-day basis that I started to develop a deep passion for that. Obviously, I wanted to help people. I wanted to serve the community in a way that wasn't available prior to opening the studio. But there's something to be said for that passion growing inside of you when you see it not just impact your life, but other people around you as well.
Yeah. And it's what we talked about earlier. It's who you are. You love to help people. And that's what you get to do every day, is like actually see people live better lives because they're being just, they're accomplishing goals because
they're showing
better.
Yeah. They're showing up. Yeah.
So you kind of alluded to this earlier, but you've had a lot of changes in the last year. What's something that you've learned about yourself in the past year with all those changes?
Yeah, I would think, going back to me being my harshest critic, I would think now that I'm a good mom, I think prior to becoming a mom, I would take a look at all the moms around me and just think, how do they do it? Like, I remember coming to your house and you take care of your 3 kids, bath time, feed them, get them to bed, and then I'm over here exhausted and I haven't done a thing to help you. And you're like scrubbing the floor or doing the dishes or doing all of the things. And you just portray this strength. And I always didn't think I had that. I didn't think that I had the strength and what it took to be a good mom, if that makes sense. That sounds pretty deep, but I just never knew if I had that. And so I think even at the beginning, and we'll probably talk about this in a later episode, but Noah struggled a lot with reflux and she cried all the time. And there were a couple specific instances where she would choke on the mucus from her reflux, and I didn't think she was breathing. And I doubted myself so much. And I think that as she has grown up, it's not just because she's still alive and she's healthy that I think I'm a good mom, but I think that just over time, like everybody is a good mom if you show up for your kids, no matter what state you're at. And I always had this vision, or I always had this, I guess, opinion that you had to be perfect before you could be a good mom, and just being who you are to your kids, to your babies, is perfect enough for them. And so I think that's something that I've realized over the last year, is that I do have the strength, and I am a good mom. And I mean, that's not to pat myself on my back. It's to, all of that comes from God and the tools that he's equipped me with to be able to do the job properly. But I think that that's something to be said, that I think more moms need to be vocal, or at least accepting of the fact that they're doing a good job, because I don't think that they hear that enough.
Yeah, that's very true. I think we'll talk a lot about motherhood and being moms, since we're both in that season. But yeah, just the fact that you poured so much of your heart into figuring out what was wrong with her at the beginning of having reflux. I think like that could have very well been, I think you probably even got the opinion that it's normal to have reflux.
Yeah.
And the fact that you tried to get to the bottom of it shows how strong of a mom you are, because it's not easy watching your kid go through that.
You just hear, they are colicky, they'll grow out of it. Yeah. And that's just how babies are. Babies cry. And I get babies cry, but when you can see, there's also something to be said about that mom instinct,
Exactly.
and
that's your kid. That's
when
your
you
child.
see that your child is in pain, there's nothing I wouldn't have done to make sure that she felt good and that she was healthy. So
exactly. Yep. And I think that you hit it spot on. Like, every mom needs to recognize, and we all aren't. We all have different strengths, but you were given your children by God for a reason, right? And so you trust that you're fully equipped to do that. And but it's a big season of growth. I mean, I feel like that one when Addie was a baby, I was just like, I don't know how I'm going to ever do this, but somehow just do.
I mean, don't get me wrong. There's still days that I think that I'm like, I have no idea what I'm doing.
Just doing my best out here.
Yeah. Just one day at a time.
Yeah.
But I think there's also a lot of strength in that too, you know, just showing up as you are, doing your best.
Yes. Yep. Yeah. Well, to kind of last topic as we kind of close out this episode on a lighter or on a fun note, what are some, as we were growing up, I mean, we talked about some of the memories we had on the other episode, but what are some things that you remember, not only as us growing up together, but just growing up in general?
Growing up.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because when we talked about this, when I interviewed you, you said that I had a lot of patience and that you were bossy. And to be fair, you were at times, but you're also the oldest sibling. And so I feel like that kind of comes with the territory. But I also think you had a lot of patience with me because I was kind of the annoying little sister. Like I always I always wore your clothes. Like you would be in the bathroom getting ready for school and I would sneak in your closet and pick something out that I wanted to wear. And then we would argue the whole way to school.
Or I'd find my clothes and you're hanging up in your closet.
That's true. That's true. I would just like sneak it in there so you wouldn't notice and not wear it right away. Give you time to forget about it.
Maybe she'll forget that she owns this.
Yeah, exactly. But I also just think that, you know, there was a side of being the protective older sibling, but there was also the side of like, I felt like you just genuinely wanted to keep us safe and to take care of us. I mean, our younger brother, Booker, I will never forget. So almost every single night until you went to college, Booker slept in your room. Like he would make a little bed on the floor just because he felt safe by you.
Yeah.
And looking back, I'm like, that is the sweetest thing in the world. But at the time, I was like, they are forming this sibling alliance that I am not a part of. And I need to know what's going on in that room. And the day we brought you to college, I'll never forget, we brought you to Sioux Falls. We ate at Grill 26. We left and we were getting back in our car to drive home and you were going to campus. And Booker is in the backseat. And you know those like dramatic movies where someone's like looking out the window crying and like that is probably not what Booker was doing, but in my mind, that's what Booker was doing. And we get home that night and I'm in my room and down the hallway, I hear him kind of like crying a little bit. Or he's just sad. I know he's sad. And so I go down the hallway. I said, "Hey, bud, I know it's sad, but do you want to come sleep with me tonight?" And he goes, "No." I'm like, "Okay, well, I know it's an emotional night." So I said, "I'll just make a bed for you on my floor in case you want to, in case you get lonely and want to come." Mind you, he had spent almost every single night in your room up until this point. Literally. Like it was very uncommon that he slept in his own room by himself.
And he was like 8 or 9.
Yeah, exactly. And I said, "Okay, well, I'll make a bed in your room or in my room for you just in case you get lonely." And through his tears, he goes, "Don't bother. I'm not going to want to." I've walked back to my room and I'm like, what was so great about her? And like, what did I ever do to him? It's just so funny. And like at that time, I was a little bit hurt. But looking back, I just think that's so amazing that you created such a safe environment for us siblings, whether I realized it or not. It took me a lot of years to realize it, but I just think that's so special that you did that and that he, you know, was 8 years old and still wanted to spend every second with his big sister. And I think that's pretty awesome.
Well, thank you. I don't know if I always, my recollection of it was just me wanting to put things in order and be in charge. But I will say that's my recollection of that day too. Yeah. Booker just like crying uncontrollably. And I thought it was so funny because I was such a homebody. I'm like, I'm coming home this weekend. Yeah. This is like a Tuesday.
Home in 3 days.
I'm like, I'm coming home on Friday. It's like I'm in Sioux Falls. I'm an hour and a half away. It was so funny. But yeah, he did. He just like every night he would. I'm like, don't even bother trying to sleep in your room.
Exactly.
On the floor anyway.
Exactly. Yeah. No, you were the perfect kind of little clan leader for all of us and our little cousins. Our parents all worked on the farm together. And so we would like take the school bus to the farm, all of us and our cousins. And I remember there were points where, you would line us all up before we dispersed to go play. And our parents are out working and you would say, your parents gave me permission to spank you if you don't listen to me. And so
Totally not.
But
true, by the way.
I think you can shift your mindset to be, I was really just trying to take care of them.
Trying to take care of them.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So what might have seemed bossy to you, or maybe even us in the time, was really just those motherly instincts kicking in and being like, it is my duty to take care of every single one of you.
No one's gonna survive. If
No one will survive
if I don't
without
do
me.
something.
Yeah, exactly.
We had a really good childhood. I think we just had a lot of fun, and I think you brought up the cousins. It was so fun to grow up around all of our cousins we acted like siblings.
Yeah,
and
it was the best.
we just did so many fun things together. But I think that honestly too, I loved that, like our rodeo days. Yeah, like that always sticks out to me so much, that because it was just you, me, and mom, but Booker didn't like to rodeo. So I feel like that was kind of our thing that we did as sisters too.
Well, and we didn't, like, we were kind of roughing it a little bit too. Like, we would go to all of these, every weekend we were traveling to a rodeo, and we wouldn't stay in a hotel room. We would sleep in our horse trailer that didn't have living quarters. And so we would sleep in the tack room on top, where you would put like the saddle blankets or whatever. And I just remember it being like 100 degrees in there, and all three of us were up there, and it was just so hot. And then we'd try to crack the window, but then it was a hot air coming into the window anyway. And then we would have to wake up and do the queen contest the next morning and try to look put together like we didn't just sleep in a sauna all night long. But honestly, I think those experiences and memories are really what shaped me and what probably shaped you too. And I mean, at the time I was like, just get me some ice cream or some air conditioning, but looking back, it'd be so fun to go back and do that all over again.
Yeah, I totally agree. Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing your art today. I feel like there's going to be so many people that connect with you. Just you're so authentic and real. But you, I just feel like people are really going to connect with your heart. So thanks for sharing who you are. Yeah. Is there anything that you'd like to share before we close out our time?
I don't think so. Like you said, I'm just incredibly grateful for you and for really this opportunity. We don't know what it's going to look like yet, but I just think it's so special to be able to, we live 2.5 hours apart. And so just to have this time together is really rare and really special. And we just hope and pray that even if there's one person that listens to what we're doing and resonates with something, or is at least encouraged, I think we've accomplished what we set out to do. So really grateful for you and what we're about to do together.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Thanks. I enjoyed our conversation.
Absolutely.